All right, Sandy, thank you so much for joining us today for this interview.
No worries, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
So we're going to talk about some microcurrent successes. We've got a lot of people watching that are going to be like looking to see what this can do. But first, could you just start off by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background, what it is you do?
Yes, sure. So my training is in kinesiology, and going back about 4 years ago, I introduced the MEAD 20 device
Mhm.
to my practice, and it was just a game changer for doing kinesiology balancing because it was really quick way to determine what meridians were out of balance and whether we had excess or we were deficient in certain meridians, and what was going on with the metabolism, musculoskeletal system, nervous system balance, mental state, body energy, and whatnot. So it was a really quick kind of diagnostic to sort of fit with the story that the client was presenting, and very easy way for me to determine what to actually do to make the corrections. So it's eliminated a lot of the muscle testing that I was doing in order to determine what was happening with all of the meridian systems. And it was actually through purchasing that I come across the Sana Institute and Pain Free for Life. And I was doing a lot of research on the vagus nerve. And that's when I started to see a bit of a flood of products coming onto the market that were allegedly treating the vagus nerve. And I was a little bit skeptical about it. But because I'd seen the quality of technology in the mead 20 that I was using, I really researched the Avasia product line, and I thought the Genesis 2 microcurrent was a really good starting point for me just to help treat the vagus nerve. And so that's kind of how I got into microcurrent therapy. And then I had a client that had a frozen shoulder and a hip problem. She had been getting cortisone injections into that shoulder for some 18 months. She couldn't lift her right arm, I think it was, above her shoulder, and couldn't reach behind her back to undo her bra or anything like that. So she was in a really stuck state. And I thought, well, we'll just give it a go with this microcurrent. And at the end of a 15-minute treatment, I got her to show me what her range of movement was, and she could actually lift her hand right up and right behind her back as well. And I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. How long is this going to last for? And she had a follow-up appointment with me 2 weeks down the track for something else. And she walked in and she just raised her arms above her head and said, look, still no problem. And I was completely blown away. And that's when I really just got right into the Hache protocol trainings and started to learn the whole thing. And I was very surprised to see just how much it kind of fit with my training as a kinesiologist, with, the sort of kind of traditional Chinese medicine understanding of acupoints and command points and meridians and things like that, and how it kind of just fitted beautifully with that. So that's kind of a bit of a short story about how I got to where I am now.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, right? Is the body is also interconnected with all of these different things. And the meridians are one big part of that, to the point where I'm often looking and saying, we're treating one thing, but we're really affecting the whole body. We are actually initiating healing as a whole. Because if one thing falls out of alignment, right, everything can fall apart.
Yeah.
And the frozen shoulder is a really good example because it's one of those ones that people get those kind of immediate results with, right? Like you can see that change. Things like that, like alignment, they are always really fun to do in in-person sessions because people are like, whoa, all of a sudden now I can do what I couldn't before. And it's interesting that you started with the mead. A lot of people, I think, they go the other way around. They'll start with the microcurrent and then they kind of look towards the mead. But it obviously fit what you were doing at the time and works well. Do you still use it to this day?
Oh yeah, it's fundamental. It's the first thing that I do when somebody comes in. I do a mead scan. It's great because it does a full report, which I can send off to my clients. So at the end of every session, I summarize what I saw in the mead, so what the patterns
Mhm.
are, and do a comparative analysis if I need to from previous treatments. So clients love to see progress.
Mhm.
So with the meat, it's a really good way to show the progress so they can see their body energy correcting, they can see the nervous system cooling down, they can see the metabolism function coming into balance. They can see the meridian patterns starting to take a much more healthier shape, yin yang meridian pairs, and all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really beneficial to be able to do that comparative analysis, and clients love it. So I do a little summary of what I see, and I email that off after
Mhm.
each session. So it's actually a cornerstone to what I do.
Awesome. Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it too, but you really do need to explain the report somewhat because sometimes they see all of these things and they panic a little bit about them without that
Yeah.
explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I do the summary because it's like, okay, it can be quite overwhelming for people. Sometimes the reports will be, 16 pages and
Mhm.
lots of recommendations for lifestyle and diet, which is all fantastic. And some people may have a bit of a background in traditional Chinese medicine, and they love that information. But most people, it's just a bit overwhelming for. So having being able to summarize it is important.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned the Genesis 2, but and you used that for a while. So what microcurrent device are you using now? And would you recommend the Genesis 2 to people? Like, what's your kind of thought process on people that are looking to get started?
Yeah, well, I definitely recommend the Genesis 2, and I have clients that have purchased it. I have family members that have purchased microcurrent devices through you guys as well because they've got conditions that I think they will respond a lot better to if they can do stuff at home for
Right.
themselves, and especially vagus nerve treatment, which I think again is a cornerstone. That's something that I do every single time somebody comes to see me. But yeah, so I did start with that. I got the Avasia Blue as well, just to
Mhm.
have a second device there if I need to do, grounding protocol or mitochondria or something that takes, half an hour of my time. Then
Right.
I've got that second device to back me up. But and look, I was getting such good results with the Genesis too, but my background in kinesiology and understanding of TCM and doing all of the training through the Hache protocol, I was like, I really need to get the pinnacle. And it was something, I mean, for me, the pinnacle was where I ultimately saw myself and my practice going, but it was just something that I had to, save for. I'm
Yeah.
not one of these practitioners that charges the earth for what I do. I keep my prices quite low, so it's accessible for everybody. So when the Pinnacle Light came to light last year, I was first in line with my hand up to grab that, put an order in, and got that at the beginning of this year. And honestly, I have to say it's been an absolute game changer. It really has just taken it. It's another learning curve, admittedly,
Mhm.
because I'd learned so much of how to use the Genesis 2 um, for treating things that were better treated with the Pinnacle or other devices above the Genesis 2, but still getting really good results, maybe just taking a little bit longer. But yeah, it's really been a game changer getting that.
Yeah, and that's great to hear. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with that because it is like I do find that any microcurrent is better than no microcurrent. So if you
Yeah.
can only afford the blue and you've got some aches and pains, it's going to make some differences for you. And as you say, it takes a little while sometimes to get to this point. And the history of kind of how we came about doing this was we had we originally used these Russian devices and they were two mode devices. That was all we had.
Mm.
And then it became a four mode device, and then it got a screen. And that was kind of what we worked with for so long. And we were still able to get great results with just the four programs and that screen. But then when we came along with these devices, it was like all of a sudden now we have something for everything and we can make more programs and we can build these things around it. And so that was kind of the inspiration behind the Pinnacle Lite as well, as a lot of people were kind of in a similar position to you. The Pinnacle was very expensive, and I'm not saying the Pinnacle Lite isn't either. But it is far less expensive than the Pinnacle, and you get the bulk of the features. And with a
Mm.
little bit of work, as you say, that learning curve, you can kind of do almost anything with that device. The programmability and all of that. What would you say, since you've been using the Pinnacle Lite, what is your favorite feature of it that you've been enjoying?
Oof. Um, I like AV mode. I think it's been really good to be able to program in very specific frequencies to treat specific meridian points.
Right.
Um, so, for example, if somebody's got a lung infection or they've got scarring on the lung or whatever, you can put some conductive pads on key meridian points and put through the specific frequency, and the results are very, very impressive. So I do love that part of it. Santa pain cycle, I think, is people have seen tremendous pain relief from that particular program. So those two are probably also gamma as well. Like being able to use that gamma range is very important for what I do. I find I use that quite a lot with the ear clips and with the alpha range as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think people that are listening to this and they're thinking, "Oh, I need to know more about this device." Actually, this afternoon I'm talking about this. So if you tune into the next session, we'll be going through that device anyway because it is pretty new. Luckily, we knew we didn't have to do a whole lot of testing on it because it was really just a Pinnacle with slightly less in it. So we knew it was going to work the way it did. And I am so happy we got it out there because it really is helping people out. And I think the last thing I want to say about that device, just for people and the devices in general, is we do have like ongoing upgrade options. So you're not, if you start with a cheaper device and then you want to upgrade later on, you're paying close to the difference between them and you're just swapping your device out. And there's no kind of time restraint on that. But so I would rather you start with something like the most affordable thing you can and get some results and then upgrade later. And so that's why we offer that option, just so people don't have to then buy a whole brand new machine on top of it as well. Though I know a lot of people chose to keep the machine upon doing the upgrade because we did offer that as an option too.
Which I took. I
You
took that
took.
option
Yeah.
because I could see the value in the Genesis too, and even still having the three devices now, it's a rare that I will use the three devices because you can kind of overdo it, but it just
Yeah.
depends on what you're doing. The having those three devices has been really good, but also the other thing I will say is getting the Viachi
Mm.
was. I noticed a big shift in treatment, especially with Scalar,
Mm.
but also PEMF. That device has done some incredible things that have just almost felt like magic, just including the scaler before microcurrent, and just seems to be a very elegant way of bringing about a healing response, a positive healing response.
Yeah, and it's a very subtle way. Do you have the one that has the lights as well? The Sanichi
Yeah,
one? Yeah, so you got all of the
yeah,
all-in-one. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I would say like I like the lights, but I do feel like some of the biggest power comes from the scalar piece of it all. I love being able to switch between them, and I consider the lights kind of a bonus more than anything else.
yeah,
But yeah, the scalar can be a game changer for people because as soon as someone hits something where you're just not getting those results, or you're even if you were getting results anyway, you get better ones once you start
yeah,
exposing them to that scalar
definitely do.
energy. Yeah,
And
wonderful.
also, I mean, the lights are handy for people that are kind of a little bit suspicious about microcurrent in general, and they've been referred by somebody that's had some success, but they're kind of not of that thinking. And you pull out the Sanachi, and they can't feel anything.
Hmm.
And they're more inclined to think, well, this is kind of a bit of woo woo and hocus pocus and whatnot. But when they can actually see the light, it just makes a little bit of a difference to their thinking.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
people do associate light therapy as a thing, right? They see color
they do.
therapy. Yeah, exactly. So they very much can see that as a physical thing. And you're right, especially with scalar, it's one of those things that's so it is a little woo-woo. People will often I have people that will be like, no, I'm not interested in that. And then other people
Mhm.
that will give it a try, but it's really just it's just unblocking the chaos of the body, right? And in
Yeah,
the end, that's a subtle move, but it's a big move.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, so why don't you take the floor a little bit here and let me know, like, can you discuss a few memorable successes you've seen? You've already talked about the frozen shoulder, but and just describe what happened. And I know people that are listening are gonna be like, what protocol did you use? So if it is something you kind of just tried and you can remember those steps, like people would love to hear that too.
Yeah. Look, I see a lot of people with neurological conditions. So whether that's neuropathy, axonal or peripheral neuropathy, I've had some good and fast results with that, especially with the Pinnacle Light. Um, but I've had clients from all walks of life with all sorts of issues, from prostatitis, which using the PEMF mat
Mhm.
and scalar is very, very useful for. Um, stroke recovery, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, heart conditions, Lyme disease, lymphedema. There's a huge variety of problems that I am treating through the clinic, and some of the most memorable results have been with a client of mine with multiple sclerosis. And when I first saw her, she needed assistance to get into the room. And after the first session, she had a lot of difficulty sleeping to start with. She also had a lot of physical trauma from the past, a lot of scarring, and so we treated the scarring and really worked on the vagus nerve, down regulating the nervous system through alpha eclipse vagus nerve. And I remember getting a text message from her the next day after the first session saying that was the best sleep I've had in 22 years. And normally, I wouldn't sleep very well because my husband's away for work, but still, I slept. I had the best sleep in my life. When she came back for her follow-up appointment, she didn't need assistance getting into the room, and
Wow.
I thought, "Whoa, this is quite incredible." And the journey with her has been very interesting. And so there was bowel atrophy, bladder atrophy. There were a lot of conditions that she was suffering from as a result of advanced multiple sclerosis that she'd had for a couple of decades. And slowly, a lot of these things were actually correcting themselves with different techniques that I was using from the Hache protocol, like the spiral on the abdominal area to help with the motility of the bowel, putting conductive pads on the lumbral sacral area to stimulate the bladder brain connection. And vagus nerve was always a center point. And in fact, I got her to, she asked whether it would be beneficial for her to have a microcurrent. And I said, if you can afford to, get the Genesis 2 so you can do vagus nerve treatments at home. And we did a home treatment plan for her that she was doing religiously. So that the results that were coming from the microcurrent treatment with her were absolutely mind blowing. Now, I will say this, that there were also in the towards the end of last year, she had a fall, and because she was doing a microcurrent at home and also coming in to see me for kinesiology and microcurrent treatment, and she was also getting chiropractic treatment on a regular basis. And on top of that, because we live in the tropics and it's the hot time of the year, significant heat, and also a lot of emotional trauma that she was going through something at the time, all kind of stacked on top of everything, and the whole nervous system kind of went whoa with the microcurrent. So we had to really ease off there. So I think it's really important to be aware of the fact that you need to be looking for the cues, listening to the
Mhm.
body, and listening to what your clients telling you about what's happening to them, and know when to apply what,
Yeah.
and change things accordingly. And another one is a gentleman that came to me with sciatica, and it was his chiropractor that sent him to me. And I treated the sciatica using microcurrent, and cleared it up in one session. And he came back to me and he said, "Listen, I had a stroke 13 years ago, and I could clearly see that he had issues on the left side of the body, and particularly with the left arm, it was pretty much not working." And he said, "Do you think that you can help with this?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "But if you're willing to give it a try, then I am too." So we started to do various things together, starting gently with the vagus nerve, and moving on to treating the scars first, actually, and then vagus nerve, and then working on the spine with microcurrent. So the three pathways was critical: 6 points, six trigeminal X points on the face, um, alpha eclipse. All of the common things that you see repeated often. Just doing those as often as possible. And he also got a microcurrent genesis too, which he was doing the has been doing the vagus nerve on a daily basis, 3 times a day at home for 3 minutes, and trigeminal, the 6 points protocol. And we have managed to correct his gait, so he's walking a lot better, and also the uncontrolled shaking of the left arm once he raised it over a certain point. That has gone away, and he started to notice that he was using his left hand to help him do the dishes because he lives at home alone, and other things around the house. And once we got the Pinnacle Light, the Sanabio 2, which is supposed to help with nerve regeneration, combined with the initial reactions to kind of look at what the device is telling us about different parts of the arm, and what might be happening with the cells in certain parts of the arm, helped me to work out where we really needed to focus
Right.
the treatment, and then putting the conductive pads on those areas, and treating it with the Sana Bio 2, letting the device tell us when the brain has had enough, when the cycle is complete. And but whilst doing that, doing various hand exercises, and mirroring sort of neuroplasticity exercises. Um, and for the first time, after the very first session of doing that on the Pinnacle device, we got him to check his hand movements after. And for the first time in 13 years, he was actually able to splay his fingers.
Wow.
Um, so there have just been countless stories like that where I'm just completely blown away by the how fast it can work, and just the benefit that the clients are getting from coming in and leaving feeling better without as much pain, dealing with. I had one lady who was in a boat accident. She had severe neck problems from whiplash, and we did a couple of treatments just using the SCAR protocol on the neck. And that cleared up the whiplash that was debilitating her for 5 years. And it can become a bit of a journey with these clients as well, because what I find quite often, especially these long-standing health issues, the body is so good at trying to find a balance that it creates all these compensatory systems
Mm,
to keep some level of balance going on. And then when you start to deal with the presenting problem, the original cause, and make corrections there, then these compensatory systems can step forward and go, "Hey, what about me?"
mhm.
And that can be quite uncomfortable for the client,
Yeah.
and it's a real balancing act actually to be upfront with the client and let them know that, hey, this may be an uncomfortable period for you, and there may be some healing responses that may not be pleasant, and we need to work through those periods together. They won't last long, but this is kind of like an unraveling of the onion, and
Mhm.
so yeah, it can be quite an experience with clients that come to you with a particular presenting problem they've had for a long time. All of a sudden, that clears up, and then you know
Other
things
things come.
seem to momentarily feel like they're falling apart.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that
and
can be quite frightening for clients. And there have been on occasions there have been clients that have chosen not to come back because they it scared them.
mhm. Yeah.
So it's been a learning curve for me to get the balance right with explaining to the client, gently, this might happen without scaring them off at the same time.
Yeah, and I think we struggle with that piece too because it is kind of like, they're as you say, they're often very short, like kind of healing crises, but they do
Yes.
occur. And it is usually like, as you say, the body, one of the most common ones we see is with neuropathy, right? We get rid of the neuropathy and the sensation starts to return, and then it hurts again. When it wasn't really
Yeah.
hurting before, it was just numb and annoying, and now it's hurting. Well,
Yeah.
the body's waking up to its signals again, right? And it has to go back through the healing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. There are so many good stories here, so many potential successes. You hit on a lot of different conditions that a lot of people struggle with. Um, if you were to say something to anyone listening today that's looking like, well, how do I get started here? What should I be looking for? Like, are you just thinking just do it, or what's your
Yeah.
process for that?
Definitely. I would definitely steer people onto the Avasia products because I think they're superior. And I think what you guys do with the Hache protocol and all the training is amazing. So you have that kind of guidance if you invest in a microcurrent. I think the Genesis 2 is if you can afford the Genesis 2, and I think it is a good entry point device. Get it because the vagus nerve treatment, the 7 to 12 hertz mode is really, really important. There are so many people out there I see from doing mead readings that have problems with the nervous system. And just talking to them, you can tell from what they're saying that their nervous system's running hot. So having that mode, I think, is really important. Otherwise, getting the Avasia Blue, but just do it because it is really a life changer.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if anyone has any questions, if you want to drop them in the comments here in the chat, we will make sure if they're direct, we can try and get them to Sandy and maybe he can answer any clarifications. That would be wonderful. So thank you again, Sandy. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye for now, everyone.